Hello again, everyone. Marcus here. I review stuff today. I'm reviewing the song Rotten Apple by Alice in Chains. This song comes to you as a request from one of my viewers. So if you want to get your song reviewed, just do what they did. Leave it in the comments and I'll be sure to add it to my list. So before we jump into this one, I have a little bit of explaining to do, okay? I like Alice in Chains a lot. I would even say Alice in Chains is probably my favorite of like the big four grunge bands, right? When you think of like Nirvana, Pearl Jam, Alice in Chains, Soundgarden, Nirvana, Pearl Jam, Alice in Chains. I named four, right? Out of those four, like they're probably my favorite. But the thing is, like growing up, and I'm still guilty of this. Like I never listened to full albums, or in this case, full EPs. Like it's just something I just have never done. Like if I hear a song from an artist I like, I'll listen to that one song in perpetuity without ever like exploring their discography, which is one reason why I started this channel, was to hear more music. And there's a series that I'm going to be doing here pretty soon if I can ever find the motivation to record consistently again, of just listening to albums, sitting and listening to actual albums, instead of just picking out songs here or there. All that to say, I've heard the Dirt album front to back, right? I've even heard like Black Gives Way to Blue front to back. I think that's the name of the album. Because when it was new, I was like, I want to check this out. You know, it's Alice in Chains with a new singer. Like, I want to check it out, right? I've even heard The Devil Put Dinosaurs here front to back. And I know I'm missing an album off the top of my head that I think I've also heard front to back from them. Facelift. I've heard Facelift front to back. In fact, I have it on vinyl around here somewhere. I have Dirt. I know you guys can't see it, but hanging on the wall next to me as well. Like I like Alice in Chains. I've never sat down and listened to the Jar of Flies EP start to finish. It's only like, I don't know, 6 songs? Yeah, I mean, I've heard Nutshell, love Nutshell, one of my favorite songs of all time. So before you request that, I've heard it. You know, I can't even lie to you there. I Stay Away, I've heard that one. I like that song a lot. No Excuses, I like that one a lot as well. But I've never heard the other 4 on this album. Again, it's just something I've never done. So again, it's why I felt I needed to explain, because again, I consider myself a pretty big Alice in Chains fan, and the fact that I haven't heard, all of their discography is maybe alarming to some, but again, that's just the way I kind of live my life up until this point. So anyway, let's jump in. This is Rotten Apple, Alice in Chains. Let's do it. That guitar is like very noir to me. 80s crime rock.
Yeah.
I guess this EP is not as like heavy as a lot of the Alice in Chains I've come to know. Because that song was deep, it was dark, it had a little bit of heaviness to it. I feel like, but like you look at the rest of the songs on this EP, again, Nutshell, I Stay Away, No Excuses, all great songs. Don't get me wrong, but they don't get very heavy. I mean, yes, like they're heavy thematically, they're heavy in their subject matter, but they're not heavy like instrumentally. In the same way that like a lot of songs off of like Dirt, for example, are heavy instrumentally, right? Um, which I think I have to be in the right mindset for, because again, I love Nutshell, one of my favorite songs of all time. Like period, not even Alice in Chains songs, just one of my favorite songs of all time. Especially the unplugged version, MTV. You know what it is already. Come on, man, the song is so good. I Stay Awake, great song. No Excuses, great song. But again, I think for the softer side of Alice in Chains, kind of have to be in the right mindset. And I don't know, I just wasn't expecting it going in. But I will say, being someone who doesn't always just sit and listen to full albums or full EPs, again, it's frustrating because it's like, man, there's so much music out there from bands that I like that I just have never heard. Um, but also, it's almost rewarding because it's like there's this band I've liked for 30 years or whatever, right? And I'm still finding little gems that I never sat and listened to, like this one. Like this was a good song. I remember. Again, I've been listening to Alice in Chains since forever. I've always pretty much as long as I was able to like listen to music, I was pretty much a fan of Alice in Chains. Um, and like I remember in high school, I think my mom bought me like Alice in Chains Essentials, right? One of those like compilation albums or whatever. It was like a 2 disc. Anyway, it had all the singles on it: Wood, Man in the Box, Them Bones, some of my favorite songs of all time. But it also had like Rain When I Die. And so by the time I got that album, I was probably already 16 or 17. I'd already been listening to Alice in Chains for 10, 11 years or whatever. Um, and then to like still find new songs that I liked. I remember listening to Rain When I Die, and I was like, yo, this song is amazing. And again, so to have listened to a band for a decade and not have heard like, a non radio single, was like, oh, there's more songs out there from this band. And then again, like, here I am now in 2023 again, like 25 years on of listening to this band. It's like, oh yeah, there's still some tracks out there that I've never heard, and it's kind of good to come back to. So again, it's kind of frustrating because it's like there's so much great music out there that I'm missing out on, but it's also kind of like, all right, I can come back to this and like, hey, there's something waiting for me still. There's still music from this band to be experienced for the first time, which is nice. I know a lot of people tell me like in my comments, like, man, I wish I was you, as in they wish they were me, listening to their favorite song for the first time again, because it's that feeling you get when you hear it for the first time that you're just like, oh wow, that was really good, right? And I know that feeling when you hear a great song for the first time. So it's kind of nice being able to still have those experiences. My cat's screaming in the background. I don't know if you guys can hear, but she's loud. So I'm just going to keep talking over her. Anyway, let's break this song down like we always do, of course, starting with the lyrics. I do want to read this about section, though. It says, this song features on the 1994 EP Jar It Flies, the first EP to debut on the #1 spot on the Billboard 200. That's actually pretty interesting. The EP is also the first major studio recording featuring Mike Inez on bass rather than Mike Starr. They replaced one mic for another. It follows the progression of a young person's developing drug habit and subsequent fall into addiction. Wow. So that it's almost like autobiographical for like Lane Staley, right? So Rotten Apple, I'll have to read the lyrics here because in a nutshell, yeah, I mean, I guess it kind of makes sense, right? I'll have to. I might have to go through and reread these lyrics here to see kind of that story. But anyway, let's look at the lyrics for Rotten Apple. So, hey, na na, innocence is over, over. Ignorance is spoken, spoken. Confidence is broken, broken. Sustenance is stolen, stolen. Arrogance is potent. What I see is unreal. I've written my own part. Eat of the apple so young, I'm crawling back to start. So I mean, if what that about section said was true, right, the apple here sort of signifies the drugs, right? The rotten apple, the poison. Like in the fairy tale, the rotten apple is poison, right? It's kind of like basically take the poison, take the drugs, that kind of thing. um I repent tomorrow. When I heard that, I was like, damn, because the way he sings it, it is very much like, it almost sounds like, oh, I'll do it tomorrow. You know, like I will repent tomorrow. For today, I'm embracing addiction, right? I'll repent tomorrow. Hey, tomorrow I suspend my sorrow. What I see is unreal. I've written my own part. Eat of the apple so young. I'm crawling back to start. A Hey, a romance is fallen. Recommend you borrow. Yeah, what I see is unreal. I've written my own part. Eat of the apple so young. I'm crawling back to start. Excuse me. Yeah, and that's kind of how it goes. So, I mean, I feel like the lyrics here are kind of esoteric enough where it's like, yeah, you could say it's about drugs, but I think you could maybe pull some other meaning out of it. But I can definitely see how it is kind of the start of that addiction, right? And even so, like having lost some like relationships because of it, right? Pushing people away because of it. So, anyway, I think lyrically it's well written. You know, I think it's kind of simplistic on its face, but again, there's a lot of different ways you could take it, and again, I think that addiction route is definitely something I can see in there. So, you know, lyrically, I thought it was pretty solid. I gave it 2 thumbs up. Can you stop meowing so I can record my video, please? Thanks. Anyway, instrumentally, again, that guitar, very bluesy, I think, guitar throughout, which, I mean, this is kind of a bluesy subject, right? But again, it reminds me of like 80s noir, right? Like that sort of crime noir. Just the way the way the blues comes out, I'm like, yeah, that brings me back to watching like an old detective flick or something, you know. But with that sort of grunge, like alternative rock twist to it. I think Lane sounds great as always. You know, one thing I really love about Alice in Chains is the harmonizing between him and Jerry Cantrell. And I think you get some of that here, although it's a little bit more muted. But I can't tell if it's harmonizing between him and Cantrell, or if it's Lane Staley's voice, sort of not duplicated, but layered over his voice again, right? Like it's just a layering of his voice. It was kind of hard to tell in this first listen. I'll have to give it another take, but overall, I think vocally sounded good. Again, a little bit more like muted, I think, versus songs off of like Dirt, where he's just like belting stuff out. Right? He's taking a more subtle approach. Again, similar to more like Nutshell. But overall, I mean, I really enjoyed both this song, both instrumentally and vocally. A lot of nice little guitar solos and stuff like that. Again, it never got too heavy, but it definitely got across that emotion, right? It was heavy thematically, which is a different kind of heavy. So I'm gonna give it 2 big thumbs up for instrumentation and vocals. As far as replay value goes, you know, again, this is a little bit different than I think what I typically enjoy from Alice in Chains. But I think upon, you know, maybe some repeat listens, I think I'll appreciate it a little bit more. Again, like I've come to appreciate like Nutshell and Over Now and Down in the Hole, songs like that, right? That are a little bit slower and the softer yet very intense side of Alice in Chains. So yeah, I think it makes the playlist. I'm gonna give it we'll say a thumb up for replay value. Overall, a fantastic song and a fantastic request. It's always good, again, to kind of come back to a band that I know I love and just listen to a song that I maybe just haven't listened to yet. So yeah, really enjoyed that one. If you did too, of course, go support the artist. I know Lane Staley's not with us, but most of the band members are, so you can go definitely support them. And then, of course, if you enjoyed what you saw here on the channel, consider supporting the channel by just doing all the normal stuff you do on YouTube. You know, like and subscribe and comment, especially if you're going to comment with your requests, because after all, that's how we got this one. So just leave those requests. I'll be sure to add them to my list. And, of course, you can check the description to follow me on Twitch, TikTok, or Instagram. Of course, my cat calms down as the video is coming to an end. But regardless, guys, thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, and hope to see you in the next one. Bye for now.